It's a different day today, Mrs. W. Yesterday was lovely and sunny, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Not today.
But I didn't know that was going to happen. And of course, the rainwater will do the onions really good. It'll help settle them down into their new homes. Now, I'd like to thank you all for your comments after our last video. I felt it was important that we talked about the allium leaf miner. I know it was a bit sort of dour, but the more we understand about these pests, the more we can deal with them. And it really is quite a devastating little pest. You know, we work hard in our gardens to raise crops and see onions that just simply aren't usable anymore. And at best, you can't store them. Yeah, that's really quite devastating. So even if you don't suspect you've got it yet, it's not a bad idea to cover them anyway. Because the sad thing about this pest is that you won't know you've got it until it's too late. But today's programme, much more upbeat note, because it's the mid-March Sow With Us. We're getting to a point now where we need to start getting things out into the plots. We've done the onions, and over the coming couple of weeks, now that we've reached sort of mid-March, we'll be able to get our beetroot out, the brassicas that we sowed, and I have to say the Melcourt Silver Grow compost, that's performed really well, hasn't it, Mrs. W?
It has, yeah.
Everything has germinated really well. And they look good, strong, healthy plants. But if you're ever wondering, how do I know when it's time for my plants to go out? These are telling you that they need to go out or to be potted on. They're starting to get slightly tinged with yellow, and I should be putting these out into the plot next weekend. So it's telling you that the food is starting to run out and that they need to now go out. You can see they've got their first true leaves.
I think they've got two lots of true leaves now, haven't they? Lovely. They do look quite nice little plants.
They are
Have we
indeed.
got any roots out of the bottom? A few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just about reached the bottom.
Yeah. They were the cauliflower, I think, weren't they?
Yes, they are cauliflower.
Yeah.
Skipper and Boris. So yeah, it's a good indicator that they're ready to go into the ground. And they were sown right at the back end of January, whereas these, which we sowed in mid-February, they too can go out into our plots, and I shall indeed be putting them out into the plots next weekend. But they're not so yellow because they've not been in the compost for as long. So yeah, the Melcourt Silver Grow has worked really well. But of course, it's a new month. That means a new compost for our sowing this month and pricking out our seedlings. And for the month of March, everything has either been pricked out or sown into Rocket Grow. Now, Rocket Grow are based down in Somerset, and their compost is Soil Association approved, carbon share low, and you can see that it's got added John Innes. It's really interesting how this compost comes about. First thing they do is harvest the rye, maize and grass that are grown on their farm in Somerset. They then feed maize, rye and grass into their anaerobic digestion plant, where they're composted down by natural microbes. Now, this process produces biogas and a byproduct, natural fertiliser called digestate. The renewable biogas goes to both a power unit which converts it into electricity to power their farm, and their electric vehicles. And it gets pumped directly into the national gas grid, powering 8,000 homes per day with green energy. The digestate is separated into a fibre, which they bag up and use as the base ingredient for their compost products. They then blend this with certified Soil Association approved finely graded composted down green waste and other substrates, and provide their customers with all natural and organic approved growing media products. And they got a really good story behind this, in that I'm sure all of us in the UK here, we will have probably at some stage seen the River Cottage series that came on our TVs, started back in 1999. Hugh Fernley, he's the guy, isn't he?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And they actually use Rocket Grow products for all of their seedlings. Feels a really nice compost, Mrs. W.
Looks nice too.
It's quite firm, which means that should be good for the roots. And there are no particular big twigs or anything like that in there either, so yeah, really quite good. Now, the first things that we need to sow are some lettuce. You can see that we have lettuce here that we're still eating, and we still have some in the greenhouse too. And of course, there's the lettuce that Mrs. W sowed back in February in the tub, which they're doing really quite well, aren't they?
Yeah, the salad bowl lettuce, yeah.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. But now it's time to get some more sown, so that they can follow on from those. I want to sow a few iceberg. Especially for young Sasha, because she likes these, don't they?
Yes, she does. And so does your mum, I think.
Yeah, she does, yes. These are some little gem.
Those are my favourites.
We mustn't forget you, must we, Mrs. W? Somewhere in here I've got some Lola Rossa. There they are.
It's funny how the seeds for the little gem are really dark and the other ones are quite light, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, the next thing I want to sow is some endive. Now, we've actually never grown this before, have we?
No, that's a new one to us.
But Frank over there in the USA, he's given us a recipe for his grandmother's wedding soup, hasn't he?
He has.
And so...
Italian wedding soup.
Yeah, Italian wedding soup. And told you, Frank, we are going to make that. Mrs. W will make that recipe. But we do need some endive.
We certainly do.
Just cover them with a light covering of vermiculite. And then they can go straight into the water bath. Next I need to sow some kohlrabi. Now the kohlrabi came a really close second to the calabrese grow along. And I did say when I announced what the winners were that, you know, although it wouldn't be a grow with us, we would feature the kohlrabi. So that's what we're going to do now. The kohlrabi is a brassica. And it's susceptible to all the same diseases that all the rest of the brassica family suffer from. So I'm just dropping a couple of seeds in each. And we shall thin to the strongest seedling. And then next, we need to do a succession sowing. The calabrese and the cabbages and the cauliflower that you saw, they're about to go out into the plots next weekend. So So now I need to be sowing the next lot. And I find this a better way to do things so that I don't get all the harvest come at once. Especially with calabrese, because once those heads come, you need to be eating them. They will last a couple of 3 days in the fridge, but they don't freeze very well. And let's face it, everything is always so good when you can pick it fresh from the garden and use it that day. The brassicas that we sowed in February, they will harvest in June. And we're sowing these now so that they give us our brassica harvest for July. And in they can go. And the only other things that I just want to quickly sow is the next lot of radishes and spring onions. The spring onions here are almost ready to eat, and the ones beside them, we sowed those in February. They're now on their way after being planted out into the border. But now it's time to sow the next lot. Mrs. W is pricking out at this moment in time our aubergines, and she'll be doing the same with the peppers and the chili peppers. They're of a good size now to be pricked out and potted on. It's important that when you're doing this task that you hold them by the leaf. A leaf will always grow back, but a stem won't. And if you are new to gardening, you can see Mrs. W's made a hole. In go the roots. It doesn't matter if they spiral. And then you drop the seedling in and pinch the soil up around it. There it goes. And then just gently pinch the soil up around it. And that's another job done. Chili peppers, sweet peppers, and the aubergines.
Brilliant.
That's probably as many as we've ever grown, isn't it?
Yes,
and because we now have our polytunnel now, we're going to have more space to be able to put things in. And really, I only got into chilies last year, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Really, I've never been somebody that eats chili, hot foods, but the jalapenos we grow, really love the addition of those into our cooking. So I'm really happy that we have lots of these seedlings that we can actually get into these borders when the time is right. Now, when it comes to pricking out and potting on, you don't want to be putting them into a too big a pot. That's why they've gone into here. These will actually be potted on once more, and they'll probably go into a pot just like that before we get to the time when we will put them out into these borders. And the reason for that is that these don't really want to go out into the greenhouse or the polytunnel until we see overnight temperatures regularly that don't dip below 10 degrees Celsius. For us here on our Norfolk 9A zone garden, that will be May. That's when we see temperatures overnight that don't regularly dip below 10 degrees Celsius. And the reason why you don't want to pot them on into a too big a pot is that when you water it, it's got only got a small root on it at the moment, really, in comparison to how it will get. And you'll be watering all of that compost and it can rot them. And then they'll die on you. So although we'll have to pot these on once more, it's better that they are in the smaller module tray. Within the next 4 weeks, they will fill these modules with their roots. And we will know it's then time to pot them up into this. So sometime in April they will go into this, ultimately into our greenhouse and polytunnel borders. And while we're on the subject of sweet peppers and chili peppers, do let us know how you got on with your overwintering of them, if you gave it a go like us. Now, we've had a mixed bag this year. We've lost some, and we still have some, as you can see here. And it has rather worked out that it's the second year plants that we've lost. So I'm kind of thinking at the moment, you can only really do this for 1-year-old peppers, especially here in the UK. I don't know that to be true, because obviously I'd need to try this over the next few years, but certainly we noticed that the 2-year-old plants didn't overwinter. They really didn't overwinter, did they? And we've lost them. And that is exactly why I always look to sow new sweet peppers and chili peppers every season until I'm sure exactly how these are going to react. The reason why I bought this pot just up to the polytunnel, it's going to go back down to the house again as we go back down there, but this is the time of year when you want to be thinking about waking them up ever so slowly. They don't need, lots of water or feed, but just start to increase the watering at this time of the year. And you'll see they'll start to put on some nice new leaves. And the beauty about these plants is, which we saw last season, is that when you get them into the ground in May, you get peppers much earlier, don't you?
Yeah, we did.
Really do.
We did get a lot earlier yesterday. We did get a lot earlier last year, didn't we?
We certainly did. And it may well work just right for us, because these plants that we have managed to overwinter will get an earlier crop. These ones, they'll probably crop later, but nevertheless, we'll have a continuity of crops, Mrs. W.
Yes, we will.
Now, do let us know where you are with your sweet peppers and chili peppers. Leave us your comments. We do love to get your comments and to see how you're all getting on. Not only for that, we could learn ourselves. When it comes to things like this, we're not wholly expert at it. Vegetables out there, yes. We know what we're doing with those, but we've actually only been growing these things for the last 2 or 3 years?
Yes, yeah.
It's always lovely to receive your comments, because it helps us form what we're doing too, and everybody else that belongs to our community. Talking of communities, it's been amazing. The first 3 months of this year, we've put on 600 extra subscribers. That's 600 more people that are watching our channel. So thank you all very much. A big warm welcome to our channel. We're glad to have you on our journey here in our no dig Norfolk garden. Do have a great gardening week, and we shall see you back here in the garden on Sunday.